Hello, and welcome to Heart of the Matter. And yeah, it's great to have Chloe join me. And looking forward to tonight's episode where we're going to be sharing on the Tao Te Ching, and it's about living naturally. So, welcome, Chloe. Great to have you join me,
Namaste.
and looking forward to our conversation tonight. Um,
Me too.
what I've done is I put another caption for people to see. It might not be I think it might be not exact to the one that's in the Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life book, but you can either read from
Okay.
that or read from the other. It's entirely up to you. So if I just the view up here. Let's go here. Go to the share. Do you want are you okay to read, Chloe? Is that good for you?
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Of
Okay.
course, brother.
Okay. All right. Let's pop that on there. Right, let's do a share on that.
Yeah, this
Right.
book has been translated so many times
Oh
that
yeah.
it's not always
Yeah.
oh yeah, okay. This is quite a different
Mm.
translation to what's in
Yeah.
the Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life book.
Mm. Mm.
Okay.
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? How there are different translations. I actually like personally the one from Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, but the thing is with that, I found it quite difficult to find that one. So again, yet again, I had to find something that I could sort of hopefully get sort of near to. But yeah, I'll
Mm-hmm.
leave it to you, Chloe. Anyway, what you'd like to do with that, if you want to share from the because I think the change your thoughts, change your life one is actually for me a nicer translation. But I just want to pop this up there anyway. So
Yeah, I mean, this is
the
the one
viewers,
that I've been looking at and
mm,
pondering over
yeah,
the last few days. Um, I guess they're going to have the same kind of message in them, the overall message is going to be the same. But this book the Tao Te Ching has been translated so many times and interpreted in, a lot of different ways. So, maybe if I read the one from Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, um, I'm trying to think if I can get it up on the screen, but I probably can't now. Um, so I'll read from this book. I'll read the version from this book.
okay,
To talk little is natural. Fierce winds do not blow all morning. A downpour of rain does not last the day. Who does this? Heaven and earth. But these are exaggerated, forced effects, and that is why they cannot be sustained. If heaven and earth cannot sustain a forced action, how much less is man able to do? Those who follow the way become one with the way. Those who follow goodness become one with goodness. Those who stray from the way and goodness become one with failure. If you conform to the way, its power flows through you. Your actions become those of nature, your ways those of heaven. Open yourself to the Tao and trust your natural responses. Then everything will fall into place. So just notice the last few sentences are exactly the same
yeah, yeah, they are, yeah,
in these two translations.
mm, yeah,
Um, and they
okay,
both begin by speaking about the nature and the forces as well. It's just the kind of bit in the middle, yeah,
middle, yeah,
that's quite different. But
mm,
I'm sure that the overall message is the same,
mm,
the
mm.
yeah.
Okay, I'll do a stop share on that. There we go. All right, that's fine. Yeah, so it's quite a verse to reflect on there, isn't there? It
Yeah.
can mean so many different things on different days, really. I know where it's there'd be quite a lot of reflection for me at the moment and where it would mean something for me in my life. But Anyway, we'll go with we'll go with you first, Chloe. I'm intrigued to ask you what are your views, or how do you feel about that verse, and what does that sort of bring up inside of you?
So one of my initial thoughts on that, or like things that came to my mind, was about literally going with the flow, with the way. And although we may not fully understand what, the way is or the Tao is, like it's a force far more powerful than I think we'll ever understand and fully comprehend. But in my opinion, like we have to trust that. That is the only way now. This is what I'm starting to learn from studying Taoism a bit more, and just from a lot of things that I'm reading and reflecting on in my life. We have to trust the way, this force, whatever it may be. Some people may call it God or the divine or whatever you want to call it. I think it's far more powerful, yeah, than we can ever really fully understand. But trusting it is paramount to, I suppose, to many things in our lives. It's just having that trust and letting go and not forcing things as well. That's something else that very much came out at me from that passage, was not forcing things.
Mm.
Yeah. Leaning into the way, being one with the way, being one with God, with the divine, with nature, with everything.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, for me, uh, uncertainty crops up.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of the time we want things to be how we think they should be.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
Dr. Russell Kennedy speaks about this, which I'll go into a bit later on, and stuff and all that. So yeah, I mean, I'll share a little bit about myself because I'm going to start to open up more about my struggles with anxiety
Um,
that started about 50 years ago from a very, very young age. I was about 5 years old when I had my first panic attack. And for me at that time, I didn't know what it was, but I know now,
mm,
but I didn't know at the
mm-hmm,
time. Um, but what I can relate to is that as children, we want things to be a certain way, and unfortunately, they are not. Then life isn't like that, obviously.
no,
Unfortunately, things will play out the way that they play out. There was
mm-hmm,
a lot of trauma um, within. If I go back and think about a lot of things as I am working through things at the moment, in my own personal life, there was a lot of trauma, with bullying being a massive one at 5 years old, losing my grandparents, blaming myself for that. It's the whole
mm,
guilt thing, blaming and shaming yourself, the jabs or whatever as Dr. Russell Kennedy talks about. Um, and then obviously the angst that was there, between, wow, especially my mum. My mum was a
mm.
very anxious woman.
So that
Very
was passed on to you probably even in the
abs
womb.
absolutely, absolutely. And
Mm,
again, they say that basically at the end of the day that it's that those of us that are very, very sensitive that end up with like anxiety and depression, but also it can come
oh,
out in
you're
other.
frozen, brother.
Uh, am I right now? Am I
You're
there?
back.
I'm
You're
back.
back.
You're back as well. I think there's a bit of an unstable internet connection. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, I was talking a bit about my history, wasn't I?
So your mother, she was
Yeah,
very anxious. Yeah.
yeah, always about money, very stressed out about money and stuff, and stuff. So she was, when I think about it, quite an anxious lady,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And like being sensitive, then you pick up on all of this stuff as well,
Mm-hmm.
So there was that, there's other things there, that I can go into. Obviously they had a separation for a while. I was quite young at that period as well. All these things are obviously you're going to pick up on, And then
mm.
obviously there was a certain issue that happened when I was in the womb. Um, I'm not going to go into the major details of it, but it was very traumatic for my mum. Being in the womb, obviously, that's gonna affect
Yeah,
me.
traumatic for you as well. Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I
Yeah.
know the details. I'm not going to go right into the details. I think I've shared them with you. I think, Chloe, but yeah, but and amongst other things, over the
Mm,
years. But as I say all this, it's not like I'm sitting here and making bad of it all because it wasn't all bad. There were some good times. There were some
mm-hmm,
good times as well within my family and stuff. But
mm,
then if I really think back, most of my life I've been feeling pretty anxious most of my life.
mm-hmm.
Um, this whole thing of not feeling safe. Yeah.
Right.
And stuff and all of that. But these are things now that I'm obviously working through, at the moment and stuff and that. So yeah, it's been quite a challenging time over the last few weeks, actually.
Mm,
But it's allowing me to realize and understand that it's not a mind thing, which I perceived it to be. It's actually yeah, a body thing. It's in your body and it's not in the mind. It's just
yeah,
it's the body that, because there's this alarm going off in your body, that's what affects the thoughts in your mind. Does that sort of make
yeah,
sense?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
you
yeah.
went
Your body's holding the trauma. Yeah.
exactly, and then you end up in these cycles, and then
Mm,
you end up in all this worry.
mm,
But what I've learned from Dr. Russell Kennedy is to be able to take myself out of here and bring myself into my body. So that
yeah.
means, and I'm telling you, it's painful. It's very, very painful. But what I do is I just allow myself, when I'm feeling the alarm going, rather than get myself caught up into the cycles of the mind, and all the worry,
Mm,
just to go to the body and to feel the sensation. And
yeah, yeah.
the pain is just very, very unpleasant. For me, it's about here on my chest. That's where I
Mm-hmm,
feel mine, but it can be anywhere between sort of like the throat down to the sort of the pubic bone,
mm-hmm,
but it'll be
mm-hmm.
somewhere within your body
Yeah.
and stuff and all of that. So I've just begun to realize, and that's really, really helping me now, and it's helping me to
Amazing.
get a better understanding now, and it's allowing me to go into my body and just to be able to sit with that, not even to try and work out the sensation
No,
and
but
stuff.
that's, yeah.
It's almost like you don't. It's another saying that he used and all that. It's about having had the sensation, but without the explanation, but just
Mm-hmm. Just letting it
sitting with it.
be, just letting
Yeah,
it be. And
yeah,
that's a
yeah, yeah.
perfect way of
It's like
living,
you're like
naturally with the Tao.
acclimatizing yourself
Yeah,
to it. Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, yeah,
rather than
yeah.
running away from it. Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
You're just being with it. So living naturally,
yeah, yeah.
it's not just about externally and what's around you, but it's about
Mm,
what's inside of you because
mm,
you are nature. We are all nature. We are all one. We are the way, if you will, or part of the way. So by you doing this work that you're doing and just sitting there with that and really feeling into that, that is part of living naturally. That's the way I see it because you are being there and still and present in that moment, and that is, from my understanding of the Tao, that is one of the most fundamental things, is slowing down
mm,
and being present in the moment, whether or not it's to focus on that pain and feel that and process it and release it, or whether it's just to sit and enjoy a piece of music, but that whole idea of just being still and present and feeling and focusing on now and not yesterday or tomorrow or, even later that day, but now, what's happening now?
mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is about that, getting into the
Mm,
present moment. And again,
mm,
this might sound a bit woo woo to the listeners out there, but for me, it is like reconnecting with that younger version of myself, And it's like when I close my eyes and I go into that, I can imagine a photograph of myself when I was younger. It was about, I don't
mm,
know, maybe about 5 or 6 years old, and it's almost like I can see him so
mm,
clearly, and I can see almost like see the pain in his eyes and
mm,
the sadness. Yeah,
mm.
but it's okay because it's like this is what this is about, so that I can take him from that and bring him into this because I'm the adult. It's almost like I've got to reparent that younger part of me. Does that make sense? And make him feel safe.
Yeah, definitely.
Make him feel that he's he's seen, he's heard, he's loved.
Mm,
And just yeah, and protected.
yeah.
All of these things. And nurturing him and giving him that compassion as well. So
Mm.
yeah, that's something I would
And
like to share.
yeah, thank you for sharing, brother. By doing that, not only are you healing yourself, but you're potentially, breaking cycles that may have been in your kind of ancestry for like many, many years.
Mm,
I think we're living in a time now where so many people are waking up to the realization that, they've got this trauma that needs healing and that they need to do this inner work. And it's not only healing the individuals that are here right now, but it's healing, ancestral trauma and breaking kind of, generational patterns that have been passed down and passed down. So we're actually healing ourselves, but also our ancestors and also any future children, that may come from our um, bloodline as well. So the work that you and I and so many others are doing at the moment is like monumental, in my opinion.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I was going to ask you a question. How do you feel about your childhood? How did things feel for you, as a child? And
Hmm.
could you say that there's things that you can see from there as well? That it's almost like it feels like these rose tinted glasses that are slowly coming off because we get to see the world in a certain way, but it's almost like breaking out of that and sort of seeing the world in a new way and actually saying, well, it is safe. It's only my perception that it's not safe and that and
Hmm.
stuff. But I don't think I just wanted to ask you, how you feel about your childhood, and if you don't mind being a bit open about that. I mean,
No, I don't mind sharing.
mm,
I don't remember experiencing any, kind of anxiety or anything like this when I was very young. That came quite a bit later in my life. I started experiencing anxiety, probably in my late teens, early 20s. But as a child, I don't remember anxiety. I don't remember feeling unsafe. Um, my mum had quite a quick temper when I was a child. So I think there was often sort of raised voices. Um, Nothing that really has kind of, I suppose, like stuck with me and scarred me as such. But, at times I did very much feel like I kind of just wanted to, be somewhere quiet and like, be away from the shouting. So I remember that feeling of not wanting to necessarily escape, but just kind of wanting to, yeah, to just go off to my room and be quiet.
mm,
And I also remember from a young age that I felt this kind of need that I wanted to help my mum. I think I could very much sense that she was struggling, although maybe at the time I hadn't fully processed that. But I could very much sense that my mother, probably on a quite a deep emotional level, now I realise, did need some help.
that's interesting. That's
Um,
interesting.
and I remember having this feeling of really wanting to help my mum and yeah, and I think that was on quite an emotional level. And my mum didn't really like talking about feelings. She's never been one for really talking about emotions. And and getting emotional. Not that she does show emotion, yes, like a whole range, but not necessarily like really talking about it a
Mm,
lot and having those kind of real heart to heart kind of conversations. I don't remember much of that at all from my kind of later childhood and teenage years. So now that I'm reflecting on it even more, I think that, yeah, maybe her, maybe not avoidance is the right word, but maybe she found that difficult because she herself had stuff that she was trying to process or, you know, didn't know how to process.
mm.
Um, so yeah, I think the takeaway from that is that I always felt like I just wanted to be that much closer to my mum, but I guess I didn't really know how. I mean, I have a good relationship with my mum, even now, she's a big part of my life. But I always felt like I sort of wanted deeper, something deeper. Um,
That's
but
interesting.
I've learned
No,
to accept that now. Yeah.
that's really interesting. That's really interesting as you brought that up because you know we tend to be what we call caregivers, when we're quite young, because we feel that we need to be somehow there to fix their problems. Does that sort of make sense?
Mm, mm,
When we shouldn't have to. That's not our right place to be able to do that, as
mm,
children, because we need to develop and grow, and stuff and all that. This is what I've learned, and also about how is to really hold my emotions within, not really express myself, as well. But it's just interesting, very, very interesting, as you mentioned that, because that's what Dr. Russell Kennedy talks about as well, about this whole, yeah, about becoming almost like we've got to fix their problems. It's up to us to do that. It's up to us to sort things out,
mm,
you know. Um, yeah, but also I'm learning about that we're not actually um this is what I'm learning that you know we shouldn't be there for other people's emotions. It's like
no, that's not ours to carry.
it's not
Yeah,
ours to
sorry to
carry. It's almost
interrupt.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you're right. Yeah, and it's almost like it's about them sorting in their own garden out.
Mm-hmm.
We got our own gardens to
Mm,
sort out. They can either turn into weeds or beautiful flowers and whatever
yeah.
we want inside of us. But it's just interesting because as you said all that, I was just like, whoa, isn't it funny that pattern of how we feel we need to be going in there to fix up their problems. Just
Mm,
just interesting. Just interesting that
yeah.
that came up. Mm, mm,
Yeah. I remember, feeling as a child like such a like fierce love for my mother. Like, it was a love like no other. And of course I still love her now, but I think as a
mm,
child maybe things do feel a bit more intense, don't they? And of course,
mm,
as a child, my mum really devoted herself to bringing up her children. I have two older brothers and a younger sister.
mm,
She really devoted herself to us. Like, she kind of gave up working outside the house for many years. And I mean, with four children, she had her hands full, but she really kind of dedicated her life to us. And I just remember, feeling that I wanted to almost like give something back. I really want to help my mum in some
mm.
way.
It's
Um,
yeah, and again, as you say that, it's almost like it's the flip of the coin as a sense because it can either be a lack of or I know which one I'd prefer out of the two. I'd prefer that, but even that, if you give too much, that's unhealthy as well.
of course, yeah,
It's finding that sort of that middle ground, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
As
yeah.
I'll share a story, with my brother, I'll just go into that quickly. So when I was very young, he was getting all the attention, and everything and all that. Now I know the reasons behind that, obviously, and that's obviously to do with the fact that my mum obviously had a break from my dad for a while and went to another person, an old flame, and they struck up a romance, and she obviously got pregnant, and she had my brother and stuff. And that didn't work out. It ended in violence, physical violence, and my mum had to walk out from the
Oh,
relationship, and she went back to my dad,
okay.
and stuff and all that. But then she admitted that that she had to feel that she needed to make up some way for Reese because he didn't have the actual father, you know.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I was then sort of feeling very disconnected from the family. Very felt like
Mm,
that he was the one that was all loved and I wasn't. So it's all this stuff that was going on, when I was younger. But obviously, as I sit there and I talk about these things and I reflect on these things, obviously I'm an adult now, you know. And again,
mm,
what I'm realizing is you're never going to get that love from anyone else. It's something you've got to give to yourself, to
mm,
that inner child that needs that. It's down to you to give it that. That's what the realization is now for me.
mm,
Um, and again, I bring these things up, but well, like I said, there were some great things. I remember lovely
mm.
family days out and going for
Yeah,
meals with
yeah,
my mum
same.
and
Yeah.
my dad, walking to me to work, and he helped me out with a situation at work when I was getting sort of bullied there, and he stood up for me
Mm,
on that. So, it wasn't all bad, but again, as children, what are we going to actually be drawn to? Well, pretty much all the things that sort of traumatize us, and it comes down to me just being a very sensitive person,
yeah,
and generally, and yeah, so that's that. It's just interesting that
it
the way
is. And
this
I think,
conversation's going tonight. So yeah.
yeah, I think the
Mm.
the stuff, the kind of trauma that we experience as a child, we don't even, well, we don't always necessarily even realize that it's trauma, and we just kind of carry on. And it's not till later in our lives sometimes that we realize
Mm.
just what we've been carrying around. Even some children who are not involved in or affected by quite, severe kind of abuse and things like that,
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah, yeah,
even suppress that and bury it deep inside them.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not until years later that they really like address it or
Mm, mm,
kind of accept it, acknowledge it. So,
mm, mm.
the human mind it's like it's our body that holds the trauma, but our mind is very good at just kind of telling us, no, no, we don't need to deal with that, and focus on other things and distractions and
And the other, yeah,
um
and as you
mm,
say that as well, it's all like the mind is like a mirror of the body. So how your body's feeling is how your mind's going to be projected by how the body feels. Does that sort of make
yes.
sense?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like
You know?
a mirror or like a loop. I've
Yeah.
heard it described as a loop as
Mm,
well before.
mm,
Yeah,
mm, mm,
yeah.
mm. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, and
Mm,
it's like there's this whole thing about how we sort of worship the mind when actually there's a lot of intelligence to the body, and it seems to store all this trauma inside our bodies, but also it's something that I've tried thinking my way out of it. It doesn't work. The amount of
no,
times that I've
it
tried
doesn't.
thinking all this stuff and all these ways out of it, or using I've been to oh man, I've been to therapies. I've had medications over the years. All this different stuff.
Mm,
And none of it's worked. None of it's worked. It's only now since I've been um, looking into this whole new way, by going into my body and reconnecting to the alarm in my body, that it feels like things are changing for me. Yeah,
that's so good to hear.
I can't say any more than that really. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. You're learning to live naturally and just be with it. And
yeah. It's like
yeah,
you sort of like acclimatizing to it.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you're acclimatized to it. Yeah, yeah, and stuff and all of that. So yeah, and then but also then I'm realizing as well about relationships as well, you know, and how we. I think this is what we was talking about just before we did the podcast about trauma bonding, you know, and then how
Mm.
we will ultimately, when we're younger, attract the very thing that we don't really want, but what comes in our life because it's familiar to us. It's very
Yes,
familiar.
yeah, like subconsciously
Yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
we are drawn to
Mm,
the familiar, even if
mm,
that familiar
mm,
is detrimental, to
mm,
our to us.
yeah.
Yeah, we will be drawn to it.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm,
but this work that you're doing and many of us are doing, it's undoing those trauma bonds, isn't it? It's
mm,
recognizing them, undoing it, healing, and trusting more, just trusting in the Tao, in the way.
mm. And again about for me, I struggled so much with um not not speaking up, you know, um
Mm,
keeping things very much inside of me. Um, whereas now I'm learning about boundaries, you know,
yeah,
because if I don't put those boundaries there for myself, then I'm abandoning myself, and that's what I'm
yeah, yeah,
beginning.
yeah, of course, of course.
That's what I'm beginning to realize, you know, and stuff and all
Yeah,
of that. So, you know, yes,
mm,
you know, it's almost like how do we grow? This is what I said to you earlier, wasn't it, Chloe? How do we grow?
mm,
We have to get out of our comfort zones. It's the only way.
we do.
It's the only way. You know, like I said, you know,
Mm,
yeah, and it's okay, you know, to if you've got whatever's going on in your life, to be able to sit there and talk it out and go to that person, whether it's in an actual relationship, sexually, or just with a friend. Go and speak to that
mm.
person. Share what needs to be shared from the heart because resentment doesn't help. If you just
No, it
keep
doesn't.
inside, it will just eat you away and eat you away, and
We
it
do
adds more
need
onto things. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we need to speak our truth. That's really important. We do
Mm,
need to get it out there. When you were saying about that you haven't spoken up enough, like the first line of this verse, the 23rd verse is to talk little is natural. Fierce winds do not blow all morning. So again, that's about the balance, that you mentioned as well about loving
mm,
too much or not enough. So I think it is important to speak our truth and to talk, but we don't need to speak all the time. There's
mm,
times when we should speak up, and there's times when we should be listening and observing.
mm,
um and I think listening, once we start setting those boundaries like you said and knowing our boundaries, I think then we start to realize when is the time to speak up. When is that really necessary? When can I use that force, to really
mm,
speak my truth? And we do have to do that. I think that that's all part um of being authentic, isn't it? And being authentic is also part
yeah.
of living naturally.
Mm,
It's
mm.
being true to ourselves.
Yeah, and the other thing as well is, very, very healthy to feel, all your emotions, whatever they be,
Mm,
none of them are good or bad. They're just emotions, It's like anger,
mm,
I
yeah,
I went the other way with anger, suppressing it and
mm,
and then I went the other extreme, on on the pendulum, where
yeah,
I was in rages, and that's not
yeah,
healthy. But now. It's like, yeah, and anger is an energy that can be used in a really good way.
yeah,
It can give you it
100%.
can give you a kickstart. It can help you to initiate something, that needs to be initiated
Mm-hmm.
in your life. So again, it's just how we look at these energies. They're all there for a reason. It's just how we
Yeah,
use them in a proper
it's all
sort of
energy.
balanced way. That's it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All, everything we feel is energy. It comes from
Mm.
energy. Um, so yeah, it's just what we do with that energy, isn't it?
mm, mm, mm,
Yeah, but you're right. I don't believe any like emotions are negative or positive
mm,
at all.
mm,
They're
mm,
all there for a reason.
mm.
They're all valid. Um, yeah.
Yeah. So it feels good. Just feels good to just be here and just be open, um, about my life a bit more,
Mm,
and in the hope that it might help some other people out there as well.
mm,
Um, this is what it's about. Heart of the matter.
yeah,
Get into yeah, get into the
exactly.
heart of it, and stuff, and bringing up these things that need to be discussed and to be shared and to be talked about. So
Yeah, to speak your truth, to be authentic and naturally,
yeah,
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 naturally you. Yeah.
very important, very important. Yeah. So,
Mm.
is there anything you'd like to share, Chloe, or is there anything else from tonight's conversation that you feel you would like to share about?
I'm just looking at the notes I've made on the verse.
Mm,
Oh yeah, so something else. I think I did mention this briefly at the beginning when you asked me my thoughts on the verse. It was about slowing down.
yeah.
And then yeah, you've been talking about going into your body, which is again, it's slowing down, isn't it? And being
Mm,
present. So I think that slowing down is like essential for living naturally because when we're, like rushing around here, there, and everywhere, we're okay. Sometimes we have to do things and we have to go to many different places. But if we're doing that too much and too often, then we're not tuning in, we're just kind of existing and going here, there, and everywhere and doing things. We're not taking that time to sit and be still. And we miss a lot, I think. We miss a lot when we're just busy and we're just kind of going through those motions and doing.
mm,
Whereas when we take time to be still, I mean, you don't have to be still and be silent. But even, by what we're doing now, we're sitting and we're engaging in this conversation, and all of our attention is here on this conversation. Um, I think, yeah, it's not just about sitting and meditating or being silent, but it's just about taking time to slow down. And this year, I've had several experiences which have really taught me the importance, I suppose, of slowing down. And I didn't think that was really possible until I actually started doing it. Yeah, so what was I saying? Slowing down for me, like, yeah, listening to my body more rather than listening to what's up here, and really tuning in, what is it I need to do right now? Do I need to
mm,
sit here, for longer and read this book, or do I even want to, rather than thinking that I've always got to be doing and always got to be busy.
mm.
But actually, by just sitting and being, we are doing. I think there's a real misconception that when we're just sitting and we're still, that we're not doing anything. But actually, we are.
Mm.
We're doing a lot just by being. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it gives you time to.
Mm,
I mean, this is what I'm learning about. Is it's very easy, very, very easy to get caught up in all the distractions. Very, very easy. I mean, for me, like
mm,
the zombie scrolling. Whether it could be on YouTube. You know,
mm,
yeah. So this is that, or there's so many different distractions out there, and that is what really what it is. And I suppose what those distractions do is they stop you from connecting with yourself ultimately.
yes,
And
100%.
that's why in the mornings now, in the mornings, first thing I do is I get up, obviously I've got a little dog, so she goes outside and then I make her dinner. While she's having her dinner, I make a cup of tea. sit there with a cigarette. I mean, I still smoke and all that. Hopefully that'll be something at some point. Um, I might be able to let go of at some point. But one of the things that I love doing is just, yeah, just being able to just sit there just for a few
Yeah.
minutes at the beginning of the day. And even
Yeah.
then, I can generally start to feel my alarm in my body. So all I do is
Mm-hmm.
I just put my hand, I can feel it now. If I put my hand on it,
Mm.
I can feel it. So if I go into my body now and I feel that, it feels like for me, like this pain in my chest. It feels almost like this blanket of darkness over my chest, and it feels very um like it's compressing down on my chest. Is how it
Wow.
feels. Very heavy, very heavy.
Mm.
But I'm learning to sit with that, and
Mm.
acclimatize to that now.
Mm.
But yes, anyway, um, so first thing in the morning, I find that once I do that, that will take me out of the mind. It's almost like trying to go there before you go up into the mind, especially if you had
Mm-hmm.
many years of it. And like I said,
Yeah.
beforehand, as children, that's what we do as children. You know, the way that we want to handle our difficulties is by going to the head because we think the head is a safe place for us to sort out all these problems. But it's
Mm.
just, it will never make sense. It will never make sense of all this stuff. It's picking up on what's going on in the body. That's where it really is. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
some people might disagree with that, but that's fine. That's other people's opinions. But for me, yeah, it's almost like I've separated the two. It's like I've separated the two between the mind and the body, you know.
Well, very often, particularly in Western societies, intelligence is linked to the mind. That's what most people would link intelligence to is your mind, your brain. But yeah, the more that I'm reading and learning, the more and more I'm hearing different people, different doctors, even psychologists, people, from all different kind of fields and areas of expertise. They're speaking about this body intelligence,
Mm,
it's not all up here. It is, a
mm,
lot of it is
mm,
our body. And of
mm,
course, our mind can be very useful at times. We need our mind for thinking and for logical things. And,
mm,
you know, we need that. But actually, when it comes to the emotional stuff, and trauma, anxiety, and not even necessarily all the challenging stuff, but all the really good stuff we feel too, right? Like when we're
absolutely.
cuddling someone or, being intimate with someone and
Yeah,
things like that. We,
of course.
that all comes from our body, not from here. We feel those
Mm,
sensations in our
in the
body,
body, yeah,
not in our brain.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Mm,
it's,
mm,
yeah, it's not just the really challenging stuff. Yeah.
mm.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
and as you said that as well, it's about that whole thing about contact, is so needed,
Mm.
us as being, living this human experience, we need that. We need that contact,
Mm.
we need that contact with other people.
Mm.
I think that's a very important thing. It's very easy
It
for,
is.
yes, I like my times, being secluded, being on my own sometimes, but it does feel really great when you meet up with somebody that you have a great friendship with. And yeah, I think it's really important, really, really important. I
It
think
is.
it's a very healthy thing, you know,
Yeah.
um, and that because again, it's this whole thing about this society is about disconnecting ourselves from ourselves the
From
people
ourselves, yeah,
and the
and
people
from
around us.
people. Yeah, exactly.
Ultimately, yeah.
And by disconnecting from ourselves, we're disconnecting from the way. And I think, in my opinion, this has all been done by design, for many, many years now, for centuries even. But but so many people are waking up to the fact that we need that reconnection with
mm,
ourselves and with others as
mm.
well.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
just an interesting conversation, and again, going back to connections, and stuff, and connecting with people and that. But even that, I've learned, about our relationships, and stuff and all that, and knowing more now what I'd like from a relationship, and the type of people that I'd like to attract into my, relationships. Um, knowing,
Mm,
yeah, knowing between sort of like what I want and what I don't want now, that's for me is quite an important thing. Um,
mm,
and also realizing, that I mean, like I said, we keep going back to this whole thing about the inner child or the younger person, but every person I see, it's just like that. I see this child within them, um,
mm,
and then you can sort of relate to why people are the way that they are, and how they may may act or, and stuff. But ultimately, it's a whole thing about we go pointing to other people, you did this and blah, this and blah, that and blah, and it goes back to you really, you know.
mm.
We're just mirrors of each other really. It's ultimately it. We're just mirrors of each
Yeah.
other. Um, you know, and stuff. And it's just, yeah, relating to that part of you, that younger part of you really, and just being able to sort of work through those things that need working through, those insecurities, you know,
Mm,
the love that you felt you never got, that you have to give for yourself, work through those things.
mm.
It's not easy.
It's not.
But yeah, I was going to just say, about relationships, and stuff and all that, and certain people that I've attracted into my life, and then almost like now I'm sort of sitting there and sort of seeing this bigger pictures. It's almost like I said to you earlier about these tinted rosy glasses coming off, and you're starting to see things in
Mm,
a different way. I'm thinking, oh man, it's almost like really, I'm in a trauma-based, relationship. It's not with certain friends and certain things that you
mm,
just see around you. Do you know what I mean? And you're just seeing this bigger picture, and it's just like whoa, And I'm just sort of thinking, you know, there's that saying, isn't there? It's about they could be your soulmate or whatever, but they could end up being your cellmate. You know what I mean?
yes. Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm just sort of having to really think carefully now about where I go forwards from here with some of my relationships with certain people
Mm,
for my own good, and stuff and all that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's something I
I
just wanted to
think,
share.
yeah, I think quite an important thing to think about in, you know, for many of us when we're noticing that some relationships in our lives, might not be so healthy or so beneficial for us anymore. It's about not forcing it. This whole thing of living naturally is about not forcing it. So with relationships that we feel maybe we should let go or, we're not sure what to do. Sometimes when we take a step back and we don't force it, sometimes the answer comes to us, or sometimes, something will happen, which will help us to maybe to say or do what needs to happen. Again, just that trust, that trust.
Mm,
I think so often we feel like we need to kind of always explain ourselves or, we even to other people. But I
mm,
think we just need to sometimes not be so quick to do that, and just, yeah, just take a step back and especially when we're still processing ourselves, like you shared with me just before we came on, that only very recently you've discovered that, these trauma bonds in these relationships you've got with some people in your life. So it's quite a new discovery for you.
mm,
So yeah, it's probably wise to take some time just to not not really think about it too much and not
mm,
force it too much, like with so many things in our
mm, mm,
lives.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think, for me, what I feel like at the moment is I just need to distance myself. You
Right.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, yeah, that's it really. Not to be too involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep it very casual. Just keep things very,
Yeah.
very casual. That's just how I feel and stuff and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So there we go. I mean, I think we're sort of coming up to about the hour now, the hour mark, I think, and stuff and all that. So I think we might have to think about maybe bringing this podcast to a close. I think, yeah, we'll sort of leave it there for now,
Okay.
and maybe
Could
we'll come.
I?
Yeah, yeah. I was thinking we could just then come back and maybe do a part two because I think there's quite a lot more to talk about and stuff like that. But yes,
Yeah.
please share if you've got something to share
I
before we.
just share sort of like a final thought
Mm,
relating to the verse, and something which you said before we began recording kind of triggered this quote in my mind. It's quite a famous quote, which is, life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, it's about learning to dance in the rain.
mm,
And I think that's very much for me related to, yeah, just going with the flow and kind of living naturally
mm,
and accepting um whatever it is, that alarm that's in your body, that pain you're feeling, that you're feeling, because
mm,
some of this pain that we feel, this is just my thought, is that we might actually never be able to get rid of that as such. It might always be a part of us,
mm,
but that's okay. That's
absolutely.
okay, because
Yes.
when we acknowledge it and we say, okay, you're there, I feel you, but we send it love and kindness, we might be able to ease it, and it might not be so intense or uncomfortable. But
Mm,
I think there is some pain that
mm,
will always be there.
absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly correct. That's what Dr. Uh, yeah, Russell Kennedy's talked about. It's about acclimatizing to it
Yeah.
ultimately, and that and stuff like that. And then it's almost like because you acclimatize to it, it doesn't then become that big, I don't know, dark cloud or whatever you want to call it over your life anymore so much.
Mm,
Um, however you want to put it. I mean, for me, it's most probably been more about
mm,
feeling disconnected a lot of the time and feeling quite anxious
mm-hmm,
and the thoughts, obviously the thoughts and that. But again, that's about the ego.
mm,
That's about or the younger version of me. My younger part of me. Um, my younger Kelvin. That it naturally wants to go into the head and to get away
mm,
and to worry. And I've got a. It's almost like or another form. It's the ego, and it's almost like
mm,
it will do everything that it can. It will try as much as it possibly can to get you back up into your head. Literally, that's
yeah,
what it will
yeah,
do.
yeah.
And that,
Well,
and it's
that
almost like you've
that's
got
where it
to sort of,
operates from.
yeah, so you've got to almost like make that sort of conscious decision to say, no, I'm going into the body, rather than
Mm,
up into the head sort of thing. Especially if you've had years
yeah,
and years and years and years of it. It's about breaking that cycle. So
and it's not
there,
easy. It's
it's
not
not
easy to
easy.
break cycles.
No, no, this is it. It does take time, but you know, I think that the more with practice, the more that things do become easier. It's just
Yeah,
catch
yeah, it does.
catching catching yourself in the moment, as I say, and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
with it and stuff. Because I've tried like all the positive thinking and this and that, and yes, it may work for a little while, but it wears off eventually.
Yeah, and you can't,
You know?
you should never force yourself to be positive,
Mm, yeah.
I mean, okay, we can get too caught up in the negative thoughts, and that's not healthy. But
Mm,
then I don't think we should ever force ourselves to
mm,
be positive or
mm,
pretend to be
mm,
positive when actually we're feeling like shit, or but that's okay that we feel like that some days, because
mm.
not every day is like an amazing, wonderful, fantastic day. Some days are challenging.
Yeah, that's it. That's
And
it.
yes, we learn a lot, but
Mm,
not every day is easy and
mm.
wonderful.
mm, mm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Well,
Mm.
is there anything else you'd like to share before we bring this podcast to a close, Chloe? Or
No, thank you, brother. I think just that quote I wanted
yeah,
to share.
I think there's a little something I can share actually. You shared a little sort
Okay,
of. I'll share this, I think, before we yeah, I will. I'll share this. Where is it? Got to get to the right verse. I'll see. Where are we? Oh, there. All right. Okay. Yeah. So what I was going to do, I think what I'll do is I'll finish on this little poem. I've got to try and get it into the light here
okay.
so that I can see it. So people have to excuse me for a minute. But it's by T.S. Eliot, evokes the natural cycle in his poem Ash Wednesday. And this is obviously from Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life. It
Mm-hmm.
says, because I know that the time is always time and place is always and only a place, and what is actual only for one time and only for one place. I rejoice that things are as they are. That's the idea of rejoice, is the stillness of the Tao. And
Mm, I've
that's something
yeah,
I just thought I'd finish up on.
yeah, I've heard that poem before.
Mm,
Yeah,
yeah.
beautiful words, beautiful words.
Mm, mm,
Very relevant to living naturally and
mm,
living the way. Yeah,
mm.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Mm.
thank you for the conversation, even though it's been a bit rugby tonight with the connection. We've managed to make it through, Chloe.
Oh, it's all good.
It's all part of
Yeah,
the with life,
yeah,
but
yeah,
we've made it through for another one, and yeah, looking forward to coming back in maybe about a month's time again to
yeah, yeah. Me too.
just share more life stories, and
Mm.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, Chloe, and thank you for coming here this evening and sharing what you shared as well. So
Yeah,
yeah, and I
thank
just
you,
want
brother.
to just say, thank you to the viewers for listening. And what I'll do is I'll put a link in underneath for the new Feel to Heal channel on Telegram. If anyone's
Hmm.
interested in finding out some more information about, because I've been obviously talking about Dr. Russell Kennedy, which is his book, which is the Anxiety Prescription. And yeah, so and I'll put maybe a link for the book as well in there for people to have a look at as well. And yeah, Chloe, look forward to
Great.
seeing you again in about another month's time.
Yeah, okay. Namaste.
Okay,
Lots of
namaste, and
love.
lots of love to you and lots of love to our viewers.